in my 30s, I could get away with like 2 cups of coffee, like one in the morning, like one mid-afternoon. And then it was like, oh man, I need that one like in the mid-morning too. You know, before you know it, you're up to like 3-4 cups a day.
Yeah.
And you got that twitch going in your eye at that point, you know? And I was like, oh, wait a minute, man, this isn't working.
Hey everyone, this is Carla Araujo with Do the Work. And today we are going to talk about the alpha female and how to maintain that alpha female energy level from your, because you're running at such a high speed in your 20s. 30s, you're still good. 35, 36, it starts to decline. And at 40s, you're pretty much like, what happened to my energy? I'm not running at the exact same speed as I was in my 20s or in my 30s, which is completely normal, right? But me being the alpha that I am, I started noticing the decline within me like when I was 35. So when I was in my 20s, I was good. I was going to college. I was pregnant at 26. I was still running a business. I was actually opening up a retail store. I was doing so many things. And I thought, well, who needs sleep? When you're sleeping, business is being lost. So I could be running at the exact same speed, right? On 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. And I'm like, I'm good. No one needs 8 hours. But when I turned 35, it was like, what is happening to me? There is no way I can function at 5 hours anymore. I need my 8 hours of sleep. Now that I'm 40, I'm like, holy smokes, what is happening to me? Well, in my 40s, I'm like, what is happening to me? And you still want to run at the exact same speed. So there was something there. I obviously, when you're aging, you're just kind of like your energy's not the same. But what can we do or what should be done to keep that same level of, or maintain that same level of energy, right? So I brought Dr. Boyd with us. He's going to join us, and because I have a ton of questions for him, I'm sure you do. So please join in and ask him all the questions that you want, because we're going to talk about the alpha female today and how you can maintain that speed at your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and even in your 50s. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Boyd.
Thank you for having me. This is a subject that I absolutely love is human optimization. And that's really what we're talking about here, right? Is like getting the getting the optimal results for whatever stage that you're at, right? Alpha females, man, it's different because alpha females, they're very used to running at a certain pace, right? And like the pattern that you see with high achievers, this is both men and women, the pattern that you see is that typically what happens is it starts off like they'll wake up, they have this long laundry list of things that they have to do throughout the day. So like immediately they're like, okay, let's launch into the day. So they'll go and they'll get caffeinated, right? And they'll start pounding caffeine, and then they're doing all the things they got to do. They're doing the workout, they're making the meetings, they're closing deals, they're making things happen. Before you know it, it's the evening, and they're still like at this high, right?
Yes.
So then they got to rev down. And so like the pattern that I see is like, okay, so that's when like the Ativan, the Xanax, the Ambien, that's when that comes out. A couple glasses of wine pounding down with it so they can crash at night to get up to do the whole thing again the next day.
Yep.
And so like that pattern works when you're in your 20s and 30s.
That was me.
Right? But the problem is that, there's only so much wear and tear that we have, right? That like that takes away from our body over time. And you start paying the price of that in your 40s. And then the price gets even more expensive in 50s and beyond, right? So by the time that you're hitting like mid-30s, that's when you got to really pause and stop and go, hey, wait a minute. Like some of these habits that I have, some of these patterns that I have, maybe it's time to make some changes because this isn't sustainable for the long term.
That thought didn't hit me until when I was 35. When I turned 35, I thought, what needs to change so I can maintain this speed in my 40s?
Yeah.
And I was years away from 40s, right? But I thought that in my 20s, this feels really, really good, running at such high speed, getting stuff done. I'm very organized. I'm just like, I execute quickly. I'm just like, nothing's going to wait. To me, tomorrow doesn't exist.
Right.
And I know that sounds horrible, right? But in my mind, it was always like, tomorrow doesn't exist just because stuff needs to get done today. So I was always ahead of the game, and I was running at such a high speed, and I was good in my 30, 31, 32. When I hit 35, I thought there is no way scientifically out there proven that I'm going to run at the exact same speed when I'm 40.
Now, why? What happened?
Because I started to notice a trend. I wasn't waking up as early. I was dying down by 5, 6 o'clock when I can run the whole entire day from 3, 4 in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock at night and do it all over again.
Right.
So little things started to really affect me because I didn't understand that process. Like, it's okay to rest. It's okay to relax. I didn't understand that. I wanted to be the exact same person in my late 20s or my early 30s. And I wasn't understanding this. You brought something up. It's like the whole ego thing. Like, how can I run that same speed? And it just wasn't the same. So my body started even changing because the stress was carrying on, right? And it started just started taking a toll on me. So there's so many things there that started giving me that cue, like, you need to do something about it. But no, it was hard for me. It was very hard for me because you're coming, again, I'm this alpha female that's like running 1,000 miles an hour. And then for someone, or not someone, but physically somebody, in my mind, like, you need to slow down. No, I don't. No, I don't. And I was like, what can I do? I cannot hold on to this type of energy. And I know things are going to get worse in my 40s. So 35, I would probably say, about 34, 35, I started making some changes.
Yeah.
I started hiring coaches. I started doing things. I started working more deep. I always worked on myself, just on more on a deeper level, because I didn't want to feel this when I was in my 40s. And it does shock me sometimes when I talk to 20, 30-year-olds, and I'm in my 40s, for people to run at like a 50-year-old or 40-year-old or feel like they're waking up late and not doing all these things. I'm like, I'm at this level. Why aren't you? You're younger than me. So that kind of, I think about that a lot. Like, if I wouldn't have done anything in my, in my mid 30s, what would my life look like today?
Yeah.
It definitely wouldn't be where it's at right now.
And that's the thing is, imagine how many folks don't do that.
Right.
Especially women. So women, I'm not a woman. I can't speak as one, but being raised by women and having mom, sister, I was married at one point, like those things, like I understand the concept that it's like when you're like the glue that holds the family together, plus you're going and, building business and being an income earner for the home and everything, that's a lot of pressure.
Right.
Right. So it's a lot going on when you're trying to, be the mom, have the household, have the business, be a partner, right, to your significant other or husband or whatever, and make it all work.
Right.
There comes a time where either
and still look good.
Yeah, and still look good, right? And like be fashionable and all that, right? So it's like it comes a point where either you're someone as insightful like you were. That takes a step back and says, hey, you know what? Something's got to change, or they don't.
Right.
And if they don't, that's when you see folks crash and burn.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate thing is that I've seen that happen time and time again where it's like, continue the same pattern. And then like mid 50s, early 60s, that's when cancer comes about. That's when heart disease, heart attack, stroke, something like that. It's like, I equate it to like, did you ever like bottle rockets when you were a kid?
Yep.
It's like a bottle rocket, right? So it like shoots a blast off and then
that's it. Comes down. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's stopping and asking yourself that question. You want to be a bottle rocket or do you want to be a comet, right? Where a comet that's just going at that same pace
stays,
and just stays and goes,
And that's when I decided to make a change. I needed to. It's funny because we used to talk with friends who were younger than us, which we still have a lot, but in the conversations when we were, in our mid-30s, AZ and I, and friends were like, oh, you're not staying out late. You're not doing the things that you used to do with us. Well, they're also 4 or 5 years, younger than us. And we used to say, just jokingly, just wait until you turn 35. Just wait until you turn 35. And sure enough, when their time came, because honestly, when you're at that age, you think that time's never going to come. Right. It seems so far, like, I still have years. And it's like, no, you got to set yourself up now to what years is going to look like, right? 5, 6 years down the road. And that was our mindset where when we turned 35, we're like, something needs to change because I don't want to feel this way in my 40s. I want to feel better in my 40s, right? I want to look better in my 40s. And so going back, you never feel like that time's going to come for you because you feel so young. Things are moving at such a, like you said, such a fast pace that you don't realize what it's going to look like in a couple of years from that point. But no, at that point, we were always going to bed earlier than in norm. And it's not because it was by choice. It's because we just couldn't anymore. Our bodies were shutting down. So you're right. What went up came down. And I don't think people know us. We put our lives out there, AZ and I, with so much social media. People have, and I think we did talk about it where we burned. We crashed and we burned. And we knew we have to get our butts up and things need to change. But I don't think anyone ever talks about that.
Right.
They just see all this success, but they don't see what the alpha female or the males, what they actually, when you own business, what you actually have to put out to be successful. There's so much of your energy that goes out, and still feel confident, attractive, and all these things that go into play. And I had someone once told me, what do you do that you look like that, at your age? I'm always asked that all the time. How old are you? And it's like, only if you knew what I was doing in my 30s, 35 to be here. And now only if you knew what I'm doing in my 40s to be a certain way in my 50s.
Right.
Because I'm always a step ahead, What am I'm putting in, even more than ever, I'm more busier than ever today. What am I going to look like when I'm 40? And can I still maintain that same level in my 40s? And it's like, things need to move now. And I just brought this up. You talked to some of our women in our group. We spend money on ridiculous things. Money goes out to all kinds of things. But if your health is not there, if your confidence, if you don't feel beautiful, if you don't feel powerful, especially for the alpha female, that ego thing, man, it's hard on us. It is hard on us when we see all the success and we're aging. We all see the success and we don't have time like we used to with our husbands or our boyfriends or whatever, life, right? So it's like, what am I going to do now? So some of those things, they really, I don't know, I don't want it to take a toll on me. I don't want to be the person that goes at such a high speed like I was in the past and then just crash.
Right.
I don't want to do that. So that's why I want to know what you can do to maintain that level for us alpha females that want to go 1,000 miles an hour and still feel good and have that energy. I want to know, what do you have? What can you do?
So it's all about optimization, right? And that's really what it comes down to, is like, it's saying, okay, well, here's where I'm at. Like, so first let me figure out where I'm at with my health. And the beautiful part of that is that we have all this technology now. Like we have the amount of stuff that we have medical wise is so far beyond what we had even like 10 years ago, so that like we have all these options available to us, right? The way I like to put it is, unless you know where you're at, you don't know where you're going. Right. So first you need to figure out, okay, well, where am I at? A lot of times that, sometimes that's extensive lab work. Sometimes that's like, if there's a family history and things that folks are really concerned about, then it'll be like lab work and imaging and things like that, right? Stuff that your insurance company doesn't pay for and that you have to step outside of your conventional model and actually invest money into your health in order to go and make that type of thing happen. What blows my mind, and I've done this too, right? So I've done this too, where it's like, I'll go buy like a pair of like Prada dress shoes, right? A couple $100 for like a pair of shoes, right? And now you have like this shiny object that makes you feel good because it's got like a logo on it. They were expensive, made in Italy or something, right? So it makes you feel good, right? Or you go and you actually spend money on your health, right? Figure out where you're at with labs. Now, labs do not sound as sexy as Prada shoes, right?
Right.
But it's like you spend money on labs. You say, okay, here's where I'm at. All right, let me actually spend money on fixing some of these issues that I have now discovered. Now let me spend money on, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. And how much more of a reward for you on every level, financially, personal satisfaction, so forth and so on, to actually invest in your health. Your health is your greatest investment.
Yes.
And we're in a society where we buy sparkly things, we buy trinkets and all that stuff and everything. That's what keeps the economy going. There's a difference between keeping the economy going and keeping yourself going, right?
It's kind of like we spend so much money, if you do a calculation on coffee. We drink so much coffee, so much money goes out on coffee.
Yeah.
And, your cappuccinos, frappuccinos, and all that, just to keep our energy high.
There's a reason why there's a Starbucks in every corner.
It's like, what is a deeper level of why you need all that caffeine? Why can you maintain that energy without so much caffeine? Because it just seemed like the caffeine increases for your age. It just goes up. And up and
It
up.
does, and so like I noticed that with myself, that it was like, okay, I in my 30s, I could get away with like 2 cups of coffee, like one in the morning, like one mid-afternoon. And then it was like, oh man, I need that one like in the mid-morning too. Before you know it, you're up to like 3-4 cups a day.
Yeah.
And you got that twitch going in your eye at that point, And I was like, oh, wait a minute, man, this isn't working,
But even then, Boyd, I know that I went a whole year without caffeine, and my energy stayed the same. I have very high energy. It all remained the same, but there was the times that at one point it was like, okay, I need caffeine again. I'm not running at the same speed because I'm so accustomed to running such a high speed that, I hope this makes sense. When I got off the coffee, I was actually running at a very healthy speed, at a very normal speed, but it wasn't the speed I'm accustomed to. And that's the actual speed I was supposed to be running, tomorrow's another day.
Right.
And I felt like, no, Carla, we all need, shit needs to get done today. Tomorrow's not another day. And that's my mindset. It has always been, and it's not going to change. But what I did want to change was I didn't want to feel pressured, feeling like 1,000 miles an hour was okay. It was just more like, no, hey, slow down, and it's okay to slow down. But yeah, feeling burnt out is the worst. And so again, I don't know if I ever said that, but people always say, how do you run at such high speed? How are you doing so many things? It's like, I get burnt out. I really do. There's days that I can't even get out of bed. I do, because I'm already set as an alpha to get out of bed and get shit done.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, it takes a lot of effort to get my ass out of bed and do what I need to do and what is required to do on a daily basis. And it wasn't like that in my 30s. And so, but I'm just wired that way now. But I'm also now need to go back and say, hey, Carla, 8 hours is good. Napping is good. Meditation is good. Because what is it going to look like when you're 50?
Right.
So
that's the important thing, is that saying, it's like, okay, like giving yourself the permission to do that. Mm-hmm. Right, because I remember when it was like, there'd be times where, like, even now, like there's times where, like, oh man, I need a nap. Like a little recharge would be nice, right? Yeah. And in my head it's like, man, are you being a wimp? Yeah. What's the matter with you? Like, you push on through. So you get kind of this mentality, right? But once when you're looking at long game, short game is caffeine, using another substance to get you up, to get you down, to get things done. Long game is saying, okay, let me pay attention to my health. Let me optimize myself. What things can I put into place to actually have sustainable energy for a long period of time that's natural, that I'm actually getting to sleep at night because I'm not like so wired and everything all the time. And that's when you start bringing in some alternative things. Peptide therapy, for one thing. So peptide therapy, and there's a bunch of different peptides. So it's kind of a general term. But you have a peptide for pretty much, you name it, there's a peptide for it. Okay. And there's some that will go and cover a multitude of things. One of my favorite ones is GnRH peptide. So it's growth hormone releasing hormone peptide. It's not growth hormone. Right. That's the important thing. So like 20 years ago, you had folks that would use like growth hormone, right? It was especially like in the 80s and everything. If you were watching action movies in the 80s, if you go back and you watch them now, probably most of those guys were on like, a combination of like steroids and growth hormone, right? But growth hormone, what it can do, like growth hormone from back then, what it can do is it can cause like some bone kind of deformities and so forth that can occur. It can actually cause the heart to grow bigger than normal, causing like valve problems and things like that in the heart. Conversely, using peptide therapy, so growth hormone releasing hormone, this is the precursor to it. So you get a small bump in growth hormone. That small bump is safe.
I was going to say a safer route.
It's safe. You get muscle growth. You have fat loss. Usually you sleep better. Usually you have a boost in libido. Usually you heal faster.
These are all things that are lost with age.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, the whole idea of like searching for the fountain of youth, okay, that doesn't exist. But we have some things that are pretty damn close nowadays. And the beautiful part is that, when you go and you make an investment in optimizing yourself, those things are available to you.
Great. Yeah. Okay. And that's why, I see so much beauty out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you on peptide?
Well, let me tell you. So it's like,
you're too beautiful. What's going on here?
When you start looking at like Hollywood starlets that are like aging in reverse, you're like, okay, there's only so much Botox can do. Like there's something else. Peptide therapy, the neat thing about it, it's been used in Europe for about 15, 20 years.
And it's safe.
Yeah.
And it's safe.
So 15, 20 years it's been going on over there. It's more of a thing that it's catching on here in the U.S.
Is it, one question I'm sure many are going to have out there, is it affordable?
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those things where it's like, affordability is one of those things that I think kind of becomes an individual question, right? Affordable, yes. Are folks willing to make the investment? Depends on your mindset.
I love it. It's true.
What blows my mind, you have folks that will, they'll go and they'll put like the highest grade premium fuel in their gas tank, right? But when it comes to like investing in their health, they'll go for the cheapest thing that they can.
Yeah.
Which makes zero sense to me,
It's kind of like, I know when I hit that rock bottom at a certain age, my, my confidence was so low. It was just like, I don't feel the same. I feel like everyone knows. I just didn't feel. I just felt like my muscle loss was being lost. My energy was low. My skin looked like crap. Everything was just falling apart because I didn't sleep much. I was going 1,000 miles an hour, and then I just came down all of a sudden. It was just the oddest feeling. And it was like, I can't believe that I'm spending all this money over here when I can be spending it on my health to feel more confident, to get, back what I've lost and do all these things for me to make more and to do more and go at a faster pace. So yeah, that had to shift. And that's as funny as we joke around on the Prada shoes. And I think I brought it up on my Chanel tennis shoes and all them. Like, how can I spend all these money over here and yet not on myself?
Right.
So I really need to get my priorities straight if I want to. And I say this all the time in my women group, what you need to take care of you to go at a fast pace. Because I promise you, I know it doesn't exist to you right now in your late 20s and early 30s, but give it a couple of more years, you will come down. So don't ask what went wrong, what you did wrong. Don't ask questions because you know what went wrong and you know what you did wrong. You invested so much over here that made no sense and forgot about you. And your health, like you said, is the greatest investment. If you don't have your health, you can only go so far. And so that's at least that is AZ and I's mindset. Like, what is really, truly important so we can continue going at such a fast pace to make more, feel more confident, be out there more. And it was exactly that. Just invest in ourselves continuously. What is out there? What can we do for us? And if it makes you feel good, then do that and do more of that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. It's one of those things where your health is the investment that pays off.
Yeah. So it's funny. Is it affordable? Yes. But it really depends on what your mindset is behind that, right? So it's really neat. I like that. It's very well said.
I've run into it a bunch of times. Like I have a conversation with dudes a lot, right? So it's like, okay, you can go spend $15K on a Rolex, right? Because guys like we notice each other's watches, right? So it's like when a guy sits down, they'll be like, oh,
they want you to look at that watch.
what you got going on there, So it's like, so for
it's like women in shoes.
Yeah, right.
Move around a little bit.
Yeah, be like, you see that? You see what I got going on here? Right? So with dudes with watches, right? So it'd be like, okay, you can go spend $15K on a Rolex that like you can have on your wrist, and you can like feel good about wearing, impress your friends, so forth and so on. Or you can actually like, let's instead of buying that watch, why don't you go invest that money over here? Let's figure out exactly where you're at with your health. What if we could add 10 years to your life?
To come back and buy a couple of more watches, not just one.
Exactly. Well, here now you can buy 10 if you wanted to, because look at what you've got on the other side of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's like how our mentality works, Especially like if you're into Instagram. Oh my God, man! Like there's like, it seems like everybody on Instagram has a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is really like the mindset that goes along with it. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned I really like was sleep. Like people undervalue sleep so much.
That was me for years. And even when I was competing in my shows, in my FBB Pro shows and my national shows and all that, I was good in my 20s and 30s until it caught up to me. And I remember being on stage one time. My skin was off. I carried a little bit more body fat. So many things were happening. And I got off stage and my coach said, what the hell went wrong? Look at your body. Look at your skin. You're stressed out. I'm stressed out about what? And it wasn't that. It was just a lack of sleep. So I just remember him saying, I'm like, what's happening to me? He's like, you're aging. And it's not that you're aging. You're just not taking care of you. You need sleep. Sleep is the most important part in this game is sleep. If you can't give me that, you're out.
Yeah.
And it took me about a year and a half to really grab onto that concept. Sleep was huge. And it's not something that you can, I slept 3 hours, so tomorrow I'm going to sleep 8.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No. It adds up. Yeah.
Yeah, it adds up. And that was my mindset where I was like, I slept an hour or two. That's fine. Tomorrow I'll catch up and sleep 15.
Right.
No, it don't work that way.
Yeah.
So
it's one of the things I see a lot is that folks, though they have a hard time sleeping. So it's like, even if they like get the concept, like, okay, I get it, sleep's important, right? But then they go to lay down at night. And as soon as the head hits the pillow, brain starts, right? It starts going like mile a minute. Be like, we didn't do this today. You forgot to call back this person. Did I turn the dishwasher on? Like you have like this laundry list of things that's going on. So it's like, how do you stop and reprogram all of that, right? And so a big part of that is, like you mentioned, meditation, right? So the nice thing about meditation, if you do it during the day, it kind of revs you down a little bit. Not so much that you're getting tired, but more so that it's like it kind of eliminates the fluff so that you can focus on what's important during the day.
Right.
Right. I've noticed for me personally, it makes me less reactive too. So it's like if like, somebody cuts me off in traffic, I'm less likely to like lose my shit.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, they're a jerk. They're going to have to live with that.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is that sleep, if you're having a hard time actually falling asleep, meditation then really helps kind of calm all the stuff that's like going a mile a minute in your head, And I use the Headspace app. That's the one
That's what I use.
That's one I learned on.
I didn't realize
like
that
it.
was important until I came across, like I said, my coach and AZ brought it up to me too. Like, hey, meditate. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a while to catch on. I could not do it. I could not shut my eyes for a second because I'm like, no, there's things to do.
Right.
And that was my mindset too. If I woke up past 4 o'clock, I was already late. I had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. If I woke up at 4, my day was half gone. It was like, that's how fast I was running. And I still run at that speed. That's what's insane. It was only a short period of time that I was like, no, Carla, you can't fall apart. You got to really find out what's most important which was my health. And I started making definitely, like I said, some lifestyle changes. On top of that, my priorities changed. So, that had to change. But yeah, sleep was one of the huge ones for me was sleep. I lacked in that big time. So you're talking about the peptide. That all has to do with muscle loss, sleep, weight loss, right? Libido, all those things. How much of it do I, would someone have to take?
Yeah.
How long would someone have to take for it? And what happens when you get off it?
Yeah, all good questions.
There are all these.
Sure. And then, and by the way, if you have any questions that come about, like we can see when questions come up in here. So questions or anything along the way, send them on in and I'll address them here on air. So to address what you just asked. So growth hormone releasing hormone, God, it's so long to say. GnRH peptide. I'm just going to say peptide from here on out, even though I know that there's a bunch of different types of peptides. So with the peptide therapy, basically you take it 5 out of 7 days a week. Okay. It's a subcutaneous injection. So it is a needle. Some folks are like, what? Take an inject. It's not a big deal. Like once you get used to the needle, it's not a big deal. Okay. It's a very small amount. The dose can change for some folks depending on their IGF-1, insulin growth factor 1 level, which is something that we check first. But usually it's like 1 cc, 1 ml.
And this is for men and females.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what works beautifully. It works very nicely for both. But it's given subcutaneously. And 5 out of 7 days a week. Most folks, you'll be on it for like 6 weeks. You'll take a week off to cycle through. And then during those every 6-week stints, I encourage folks to take before and after pictures. So like they're taking pics wearing like the same swimsuit or whatever it is they're going to wear, at those intervals. So you can actually look at the change and see it happen. Yeah. Because it's gradual. Yeah. And then as far as for how long someone is on it, it just depends. It's safe to use. But for some folks, like they may say, okay, I want, like my target is to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever it is, right? And they're being diligent. They're watching what they're eating. They're attending appropriate exercise. Like they have like a plan in place, right? This just gives a leg up. So this just optimizes and can help it to happen faster and get those results. So someone may come at the end of that time frame and say, okay, you know what, I'm good. Like I'm good here, and then stop it. Well, you may have some residual where if you're not staying diligent with that same plan, you can go in reverse. But the weight loss that you've made, the muscle mass that you have, you can maintain that. Got it. And so that's what's nice is it kind of just gives you a leg up. There's some folks that say, you know what, I really like this. Like I'm really looking into optimize myself. My energy's better. I'm sleeping better. All that. I want to continue. Well, then you continue. Okay. And it's safe to do so as long as you're taking the appropriate breaks. As long as you have like medical supervision by a physician that you're doing this the appropriate way.
That was my next question, and that would be you. So you have programs that are set up for the individual and what their goal is.
Yes.
1. And 2, there's still work behind it. It's not just taking a shot and life is good, right? No. There's still so much work behind that. But that is something you will walk the individual through on what needs to be done. Do you walk through like the eating wise, exercising, all that? Do you monitor them throughout the time? So are they programs that you set up for people?
Yeah, there are programs, and it depends what works best for that individual. Like there's some folks that have like have their trainer already and everything in place, and that's working with them. Great. This helps to augment that.
Got it.
Right?
So there's still work behind that shot.
You have to. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, wouldn't that be nice if we had like a magic pill,
I
a
know.
magic shot, or just like here, do this.
Takes you have to do a thing and
yeah, done.
like, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you still have to do the work behind the shot.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this at least gives, especially as we age, as we age, like, that's one thing we started to talk about was like, when you're 18, right, you can eat the cheeseburger and like, you do a push up and you're good, right? Not when you're 40. Right. It's like, so it's like, okay, you did this really heavy workout and you expended like 500 calories during that workout, and then you go have breakfast and it's gone. Right. Like then it just balanced out.
Yeah, my body was different. I tell you, in my 30s even. After every show, I would take some time off, and I was stuck on hamburgers and French fries and sweet potato fries and all that. Yeah, I can't do that now.
Yeah.
It's like, I used to just bounce back like nothing, run the treadmill a little bit, deadlift a little bit. I'm good. I'm still walking around with 6-packs. Now I'm like, holy smokes, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I still have to maintain a very healthy diet. It's not like it was in my 30s.
Yeah, our metabolism changes over time, and so, but it's nice to know that it's, you have these things available to you.
Right.
The peptide therapy at least can, give you a little boost in metabolism so that you're not constantly behind the 8 ball.
That's awesome. No, it's good to know that is out there. That is another thing that, it might work for you.
Absolutely.
Versus you being in the gym for hours and eating on vegetables, and you're like, why am I still not losing weight? Why do I still feel lazy?
Yeah.
Why am I struggling to go to the gym still? There's so many other things that are missing that you're just not aware of. Because, it's like I hear that all the time where I'm working out, I'm eating healthy, I'm sleeping, I'm keeping my, I'm meditating, I'm journaling, I'm keeping my stress level low, and I'm still not losing weight, and I still feel exhausted. You might want to see Dr. Boyd to find out what really is there that's just like dead. Like you need to wake up something, your metabolism or something's going on. So yeah, I hear that a lot. I put it in the work and nothing's happening.
Yep.
So
yeah. And it's actually going and figuring out where you're at with everything when it comes to like the basics, right? Like cholesterol, right? So a lot of folks will be like, oh, well, I get my annual physical. I'm good, There's only like the same blood work that you get at an annual physical. It's the same blood work that's been going on since 1972.
Right.
It's like you're checking the most basic things. So until you actually start looking at things like, okay, like the actual like subparticle size, where we actually go and look at the size of these small particles of subtypes of cholesterol and where they can place themselves, that's when you actually start seeing put together everything as far as for what is the risk of stroke that we can try to predict in 10 years.
I love that. I've had that conversation. Oh, did I move something over there? Okay, good. I love that. I had a conversation with somebody the other day that was like, I had my annual. I'm good. I'm healthy. Like, but you're still a little overweight, and you're still, slow. You're still a little lazy. I know the doctor says you're healthy, but what tests and blood work did they really do on you? The same person they did, the same blood work they did on me?
Yeah.
Like what's there that they're missing because you shouldn't be this way? Brought that up was because there is, 50-year-olds that run at a speed of a 20-year-old and a 20-year-old that runs at the speed of a 50-year-old. And so there's all these things like there's no way, there's something missing there. So when you're both saying I got my annual exam and I'm good,
Right.
blood work's done and I'm good, but there's still and I'm looking on the outside like there's still something missing. There's no way a 50-year-old or myself, like in my 40s, that have more energy, all these things that are happening to me in such a positive light, and you have a 30-year-old or a 20-year-old that's not running at that speed and still carries a lot of weight, and they're doing everything I'm doing. I know genetics is in there, I get it, but for the person to say, oh, my annual, I'm healthy, I'm good, but there's still something there. Why are you running at that speed, or why physically you can't make the changes? It can be a lot. It can be the anxiety. It can be, like you said, your past that continues bringing you back to this point. There's so much there, but again, we want to hear we're healthy, we're good. There's nothing wrong with you.
So that's the thing, right?
But when there is.
When there is,
Yeah.
like when there clearly is.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I see a lot in people. I know I did it with myself, right? So I have Hashimoto's disease, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a fancy way of saying underactive thyroid. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't know, the mini med school lesson, if you will, is so Hashimoto's is basically folks will make antibodies against their own thyroid. It kind of chips away at the thyroid, right? And I've met a lot of people that use this as an excuse that will say, it's the reason why I'm overweight, it's my thyroid. No, that's not the reason why. Like, can it contribute? Yeah, it can contribute. On average, you're looking at somewhere between 10 to 15 pounds is basically what it'll contribute there, right? And a lot of folks will use that as an excuse. I did. Like, I did it for a while. Like, I found out, and I diagnosed myself when I had done some blood work on myself when I was 34, right? And I was like, what the heck is this? Like, my thyroid levels were everywhere, man. And so then I did some further testing. It's called TPO antibodies. Thyroid peroxidase antibodies is the name of the antibodies that you're actually looking for. And the antibody levels were off the charts. I was like, oh, crap, I have Hashimoto's. So I gave myself permission there for probably about, 3-4 years that it was okay to be overweight, to have the spare tire, to have the dad bod because I had underactive thyroid, right? And then I stopped, and I remember what happened. My daughters had first been born, and let's see, Bella was just over a year because she was running. Like, she would get up and like take off running, right? And we were in the front yard of our house, and she took off running towards the street. There was a car coming. And so I got up and I sprinted after her, and I got her just in time before she got out in the road. And it was short. It was maybe like, I don't know, 150 feet, 200 feet, right, that I ran. I was so out of breath from doing that I was like, wait a minute. Like, I had a hard time catching my little girl.
Wow.
A toddler outran me.
Yeah.
That's when it was like, there's no excuse. Like, bottom line, it's like, what if I wouldn't have been able to save her? Right. Because I wasn't physically fit enough.
Yeah.
That's when things changed.
Yeah.
So that's when the story dropped.
Yeah.
So if that's you, if you have a story that's holding you back with whatever it is, just ask yourself if that story is working for you or not. Right? That's the psychology behind this. Is like, whatever physical impairment you think you have, whatever you think could be holding you back, it's actually not holding you back. Flip the script on it so that it propels you forward instead, because that can be what makes the change that'll last lifelong for you.
Yeah. Well, I like that. And that's how I discovered my anxiety. I knew that I had it for many, many years since I was a kid, but it really took a toll on me when I was 35. And I was like, oh man, it hit hard. So yeah, and I still have it. It's never going to go away, but I definitely have control over it now. And that's where my eating situation came in. My eating problems and everything else that came in with it. My no sleep and everything else. And doctors weren't wanting to put me on all kinds of medication and everything. And there's one doc that said, you have extreme anxiety that just shuts down. And you can go days without food. You can go days without sleep because your anxiety is so high. Yeah. And it hit me hard. And I think that's one of the things that I was discovered. Anxiety. I had to go back to my story. Yeah. So again, there goes my investment on coaches and, all kinds of doctors and everything that I needed to get to where I needed to be. But yeah, one thing, I'm not going to get rid of it. It's there with me, but it's manageable. Yeah. And I understand it.
And that's the powerful part, is that you understand it, right? Instead of like just taking another pill.
Right. Right.
Like, we've met folks that have that go to like doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, or have like a bunch of specialists that they see that none of them talk to each other, right? They all spend on average 7 minutes with somebody. And at the end of it, they're like, here, take this pill.
Yeah, that's what's happening to me, yeah.
Right? And it's like that's the unfortunate thing with like the standard of healthcare in the U.S. It's also one of the reasons why I see so many folks that will get sick and tired of it. And so they say, you know what, I'm going to venture out. Yeah. Like, they'll go see a naturopath or something like that, hoping for something different. Yeah. Yeah. And it's that's really where medicine has let people down. And to get on my soapbox for a second, since we're there, if we're there, I'll talk about it, right? So it's like this is one of the biggest declines, like in medicine in the United States, right? Is like, once we let health insurance companies in, these insurance companies, they injected so many middlemen, like, hundreds of thousands of middlemen, right, that have raised prices on everything. So now The average person is in the situation where they're paying hundreds, if not over $1,000 a month for health insurance. They get nothing for it, right? So it's like they'll go to their doctor, right? They'll sit in the waiting room. They'll probably pay a copay, $35, something like that. You see, if you're lucky enough to see the doctor, you see him for 7 minutes, or you'll see their assistant, like either the PA or nurse practitioner, that you'll see for 7 minutes. You'll walk out with another prescription. You've spent 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and you're like, well, I didn't move forward at all. Like, what in the hell was the point
What
of
was
that?
the point of that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate thing. It's one of the reasons why I stepped out of that. It's like, this is a freaking mess. I don't want this isn't helping anybody.
Yeah.
Right? If anything, it's just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. So that's what leads to this conversation that we're having today. It's like, okay, well, here you have an opportunity that you have to make the investment in your health. You have to decide. Like, you have to say, this isn't working for me, and that I want to move forward, and I want to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Because all too often, folks say, well, my doctor said it was okay, so
I'm okay.
well, it must be all right.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, I don't have to take
But yet no
responsibility.
changes are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm healthy, but yet no changes are happening.
Exactly.
So, no, I appreciate you, Dr. Boyd, and thank you so much again for another great conversation. And
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, I always appreciate you. You have so much knowledge and so much going on out there, and so much products and programs, and we all need to hear about it. We all want to be saved, but it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. That's right. Got to save ourselves.
You got to save. You got to invest. You have to invest in yourself. So it works a little different. But anyway, thank you so much again for joining us. If you want more information on Dr. Boyd, you can go. It's Blind Spot.
BlindSpotMedical.com. The alternative is I am all over Facebook. So you can just David Boyd on Facebook.
And you have your own group as well. So, right, on Facebook?
Yeah.
So you're more than to join that. I know I'm part of that group. You give so much content on that group.
Momentum Method,
Yep.
yeah, which, the easiest way to get there is just, friend me on Facebook. If you're so inclined, send me a direct message, and I'll get you started.
Yeah. Dr. Boyd is our family doctor. So
Honored to be so.
He is a phenomenal doctor. And great. So I just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, but if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me and ask me any questions and how what I think about Dr. Boyd or, anything about Dr. Boyd, please reach out to me. Again, you can message me on Facebook as well. And I also have Instagram. You can find me there as well. But Dr. Boyd, thank you so much. And again, if you're interested on peptide, right?
Yeah.
Programs, Dr. Boyd has them. And
Absolutely.
He can call him and or message him for more information. And do we have any questions? That was great. Appreciate you too. And took part in the Blind Spot. It was amazing.
Yeah, Jason Smith. What's up, dude? Well, absolutely amazing guy. Honored to be able to take care of you, man.
We've actually had a lot of gentlemen that has seen Dr. Boyd. And they all say great things about him as well. So you're more than welcome to reach out to those individuals and find out more about Dr. Boyd as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Boyd. Everyone have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.